The Detroit Pistons just got a win taken away from them, and the NBA actually admitted that they were wrong. So there's like 30 seconds left. The Knicks are down one. Jalen Brunson gets the ball, and he gets a switch on to Cade Cunningham. The Pistons guard this well. Jalen Brunson gets a decent shot at the rim, and then all kinds of craziness ensues. We try to save the ball from out of bounds here. It goes right to Hartenstein. He's going to be able to get the ball back here. Back to DiVincenzo. We're still scrambling all over the place. Asar Thompson gets the ball, and then gets absolutely tackled by Dante DiVincenzo. I saw someone in the comment section said somewhere that this would have been a 15-yard penalty in the NFL, but it was a no call in the NBA, and they're right. Somehow, this is a play on of all the fouls that we see in the NBA every single night with guys initiating contact and trying to get to the rim, offensive players running into guys on purpose. Somehow, this is not a loose ball foul on anybody. We're just playing on after someone gets tackled. Then the Knicks get the ball back. Josh Hart gets a layup, and the Knicks win the game. And this should have been Pistons ball. They get fouled. There's like 9 seconds left, and the Pistons are going to the free throw line up 1. But instead, one of the worst blown calls that we have ever seen in the NBA happens, and the Knicks win the game. Now, ultimately, obviously, it doesn't super help Detroit to win the game, but we're going to get into some of that stuff later. But my first thought when I saw this play was, okay, someone had to have been in the wrong spot from an officiating standpoint. Someone had to have been blocked. Someone had to have not seen it in order for this bad of a missed call to happen. But no, you can see on screen here, there's a ref as close to this play as you could possibly be. There is nobody else on the planet who has a better view of this play than the ref at the bottom of the screen. It's his call. It's nobody else's call. There's someone on the far side of the floor, and there's someone on the baseline under the rim on the right side. There is nobody else that should be making this call. This is as obvious as it gets. And I understand that refs make mistakes, but this is a tough one to defend. And what I think happens here is it's such an egregious foul that the ref is like, just like freezes, doesn't call it. And then, of course, the official on the opposite side of the floor isn't going to go out of his way to call this foul, even if it is as obvious as it is, because the guy is right there, clearly has a better angle. And then the ref under the basket on the baseline as well is not going to call this either. It's honestly one of the most egregious missed calls I've ever seen. And clearly after the game, head coach Monty Williams was not happy about it.
And enough's enough. We've done it the right way. We've called the league. We've sent in clips. We're sick of hearing the same stuff over and over again. We had a chance to win the game, and the guy dove into Asar's legs, and there was a no call. That's an abomination. You cannot miss that in an NBA game, period. And I got nothing else to say. We want a fair game, and that was not fair. I'm done.
Now, initially, I was thinking this isn't really that big of a deal for Detroit. They don't want to win games. They want better draft luck. But then I thought about it, and I was like, this has been such a tough year for Detroit. It's been a tough year for the Pistons. And winning a game against the Knicks, who have been playing really well, obviously, they're missing some guys right now, but they've been playing extremely well this year. You're in Madison Square Garden. That's a really big win for those players that have gone through a really tough season. They have like 9 wins on the year. And this would have been the defining win of their season, would be to go into Madison Square Garden and beat a good Knicks team. And that got taken away from them because of officiating error. And I can say officiating error because it 100% was. The NBA has come out and actually said that, yeah, the refs missed the call, which, by the way, like never happens. The NBA does everything they can to protect the officials, to make sure that their reputations are protected, to make sure that people don't think that they have ever done anything wrong ever. It's a big deal for the NBA to come out afterwards and say, yeah, we screwed this up, and that's what they did. And unfortunately for the Pistons, this just continues a theme of just an absolute disaster season for them. Coming into the year, there was some optimism around Detroit in terms of what they could end up being this year. Maybe not all the way into being some kind of play-in team, but obviously there was young talent on the roster. Asar Thompson comes in as a top 5 pick. They have Cade Cunningham coming back after he missed most of the year last year with injury. Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren. There are pieces here. And at the beginning of the year, they had some veterans, Alec Burks, Bogdan Bogdanovic. And it felt like a situation that could be turned around pretty quickly. And honestly, maybe the biggest part of their entire offseason was bringing in head coach Monty Williams, a guy that had had success in Phoenix, making the finals, was well respected. Phoenix decided to move on from him. He becomes available, and Detroit gives him this massive contract to basically try and do what the Rockets had hoped Ime Udoka would do as well. These are teams in Houston and Detroit that have been losing for a long, long time, and they are trying to get it turned around. They want to have some positive momentum, and so bringing in veteran coaches like Ime Udoka, who had success making the finals, and of course Monty Williams, who's had success and made the finals, the mindset was, let's try and get some positive momentum. Let's get some things going. And the exact opposite has happened. If there is a disaster scenario for bringing a veteran coach into a young team, it is exactly what has happened with Detroit this season. Because not only is the team not very good, you're not winning as many games as you would have hoped to. The whole plan of trying to build some momentum has gone in the absolute opposite direction because they're barely winning any games at all, but also he's actively hindering the development of the young players. For whatever reason, at the beginning of the year, he was just against playing Jaden Ivey for whatever reason. And then in this game as well, he basically shut down Ivey in the second half. Again, don't really know what's going on there. Didn't really play Asar Thompson a ton most of the year, and then complained about the fact that he wasn't at the Rising Stars game at All-Star Weekend, despite the fact that the only reason he wasn't there was because Monty wouldn't play him. And it's clear that there was a difference in the mindset of what Detroit's season should have been about and what Monty Williams thought it was about. Monty Williams didn't show up to Detroit and sign this massive contract thinking that they were going to win 9 games this year. He thought he was going to go to a team that was going to win 35, 40 games and then be good over the next couple of seasons. He didn't go to a situation that he thought was still rebuilding. He thought he was there to bring them out of the rebuild, and partially because of some injuries and some lack of talent, and also partially because of some of the mistakes of Monty Williams, that has not been the case at all. And it makes me wonder, honestly, if this is the only season that he coaches. I know that's crazy because of the contract that they gave him. They're paying him all this money. They'd have to eat so much money. But it's clear that he's not the right coach for this situation. It's clear that there are already issues between him and some of the other players. And at a certain point, like, when is it actually going to get better? What's the scenario in which next year or the year after Monty Williams is a better coach for this team than he has been this year? Obviously, if they start to be good, then maybe he draws on some of that experience with Phoenix. But if there's already a disconnect between him and the team by that point, then what's the point of keeping him around in the first place? And again, this game is kind of thematic of the way the season has gone for Detroit, where it's like they had some opportunities to do some really good things and it just got taken away from them. In this case, by the officials, but in other cases throughout the year, it was from injuries or just some head coaching mistakes. And in the long run, Detroit definitely still has a lot of stuff to figure out. I like Durant, I like Asar Thompson, I like Ivey, I like Cade a good amount, but I'm starting to get maybe a little bit worried about him. Collectively, there is young talent there and there is some hope for the future. But honestly, I think one of the biggest things that held them back was the fact that they should have had the first pick in the draft. They had the worst record in the league last year, and they fell as far in the draft lottery as you can, from 1 all the way to 5. This team having Wemby, this team having someone else of that caliber, it would have been an unbelievable boost for them. And no disrespect to Asar Thompson, who I think is a really promising player. But then on the other hand, it's like, do I want Wemby in Detroit with Monty Williams coaching him? Probably not. So ultimately, I mean, the video here, of course, is about this insane officiating situation. I'm trying not to laugh because it's not funny, because it does suck for the Pistons players, but just how badly the officials screwed this up is kind of comical. The fact that the ref, literally, there is not a single person on the planet that has a better view of this play than this ref, and he doesn't make the right call. And officiating is hard, and I can be really, really harsh on the officials sometimes, and it is very, very difficult to get stuff like this correct in real time. I certainly wouldn't be good at it. But if you're supposed to be one of the best basketball refs in the world, you got to get this call right. 15-yard penalty in the NFL. That's so true. It's too funny.